Okay. Good evening. The time is now 7 o'clock p.m. on September 21st, 2020. I call to order a public hearing for ordinance 1041 concerning deeds of dedication for roadways at the Woods of Bayview. An ordinance by the mayor and city council of the city of Havre de Grace, Maryland, adopted pursuant to the authority of Article 11E of the Maryland Constitution, the local government article of the Annotated Code of Maryland, City Charter, Section 33, 34, 65, 66, and 73, concerning the city's acquisition of roads by deeds of dedication for Hemler Court, Harbor Court, Hall Court, and Spinnaker Way. This is a public hearing on Ordinance 1041. Before I call on any member of the audience at large, I do have a pre-filled out form from a citizen in the audience, and that would be Mr. Joe Kokendorfer. Welcome, Mr. Kokendorfer.
Thank you, Joe Kokendorfer, Tidings Road. I have no problem with the ordinance the way I understand it, but a couple of my comments help me understand. I've been at council meetings for a number of years, as most of you know, over time, and I've observed that legislation sometimes, such as ordinances, which are clear to us at the time of passage, have been reinterpreted 20 to 30 years later so that the original intent or meaning is missed. Therefore, I want to restate what I think the intent of the ordinance to be, and if I'm off the beam, I'd like somebody to tell me, and I'd like to be corrected. Okay, it's stated in Ordinance 1041 that, and I quote, "Only the roads, not curb, gutter pan, or sidewalks," end quote, are included. In mentioning snow plowing in paragraph 4B, it states that it includes, again, quote, "only the travel portion of the roadway and does not include the parking areas and the sidewalks," end quote. Paragraph 5D states, quote, "the city shall not accept any responsibility for the parking areas or sidewalks," end quote. Now, to me, this latter statement seems to absolve the city from any maintenance responsibility for parking areas and sidewalks. I'm hoping I interpret that correctly, or is that an incorrect interpretation?
Mr. Shank?
That is a correct interpretation under your reading, because the way that particular development is structured, there were roads and parking areas kind of adjacent to each other, and the city is only accepting the roads, and we have the separate plat to show that.
Well, anyhow, as I say, on 21 September 2020, this all seems very clear. I said sometime in the future it might be argued that, quote, "only the travel portion of the roadway," unquote, might be interpreted as from curb to curb, when it is interpreted today as what I would consider the center portion of the blacktop and does not include the parking spaces on either side of the roadway. I hope I'm getting that right. My second issue is this, and again, my wife, I think, says, "I wish your short-term memory was as good as your long-term memory," but second issue relates to the city taking over roadways that are now privately owned streets in the Woods at Bayview and may eventually extend to several other privately owned streets in other areas of Havre de Grace, because there are a number. And the issue here is property tax assessment. In the 1990s, and I was involved in some periphery, when the idea of privately owned streets and new developments was proposed, the resulting property assessment was to be reduced by some small percentage to reflect the burden of street maintenance on those units served by those streets. It seems as if those streets are now to be the responsibility of the city, that the abutting property should no longer receive that reduction, but should be fully assessed like every other person on a public street in Havre. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kugendorfer. We are still in public comment for ordinance 1041 concerning deeds of dedication for roadways at the Woods of Bayview. Anyone else in the audience wish to speak? Sir. Welcome to the council meeting, sir. May we please have your name and address for the record?
Charles Heiner, 356 Congress Avenue. I'm with BCH Property Management that manages the Woods of Bayview.
Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, councilpersons. I'm just here to ask if you have any questions. I think it was pretty self-explanatory, but I want to make sure that, you know, as we go forward, you know, at the next council meeting to try to put it forward to pass, that if anybody has any questions now, I'll answer them now in the future, or you can call me privately, email me privately.
Yes, sir. Does any council member have any questions for Mr. Heine? He runs the management company of the roads. Anybody? Mr.
very
Heine,
much.
thank you for making yourself available, Mr. Heine. Thank you.
I'll be here next time. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the audience wish to comment on ordinance 1041? Any comments from the council? Good. Okay. Without any further comments from the council, the time is now 7:06. I now call public hearing on ordinance 1041 to be closed. Good evening. I call to order a meeting of the mayor and the city council of Havre de Grace. It's September 21st, 2020. Time is now 7:06 p.m. I will call the roll. Council President Glenn.
Here.
Councilmember Robertson.
Here.
Councilmember Zinner.
Here.
Councilmember Boyer.
Here.
Councilmember Ringsacker.
Here.
Councilmember Martin.
Here.
All council members are present and accounted for. Please join me for Pledge of Allegiance and opening prayer. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation,
one nation, under God,
indivisible, and liberty and justice for all. If I could ask everyone to kindly to remain standing as I call forward Evangelist Gene Proud of Proud Evangelistic Association. Sir, it is always a pleasure to have you. Good evening.
Mr. Mayor, how are you feeling?
I'm feeling very good, thank you. I'm on the right side of the ground, and I'm very grateful.
Because we heard you were not well and we were praying for you.
But your prayers must have worked, sir, because
Yes.
it was very minimal. I was very fortunate. Thank you.
And that was one of the main points that I wanted to bring out, that the praying that we do does work. It does make a difference. So let's pray. Jesus, we want to thank you for what you've done in the mayor's life and in his body. We want you to make this town to be what you've called it to be, a safe place of unmerited favor. That's what harbor and grace mean. And so we just ask you to guide and direct everything that the council and the mayor do so that they can bring forth that picture of beauty and excellence onto this planet. We ask these things in the name of your son, Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much. It really means a lot. Have a good evening, sir. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Okay, 1 second, sir. 1 second. Councilmember Ringsacker, go for it. You're on.
Mr. Mayor, before we proceed, item 12B, I make a motion to remove the item from the agenda to be reviewed by the Planning Committee for legal sufficiency.
Second.
Okay, you wish to remove item 12B from the agenda?
Please.
Okay. Council, I have a motion from Councilmember Ringsacker, seconded by Councilmember Boyer, to amend this evening's agenda by removing item 12B. Questions or comments from the vote? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Item 12B is removed from this evening's agenda.
Thank you, sir.
Not a problem. Any other changes to the agenda tonight from anybody? No? Okay. One second. Item number 5, approval of minutes from the September 8th, 2020 council meeting. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
Councilmember Martin, second by Councilmember Robertson. Questions or comments on the September 8th minutes? Yes.
There is an error on page 3. The line talking in regards to the motion that I made. It says reimbursement costs are fully paid. It should be costs are fully paid.
I'm sorry, can you say where you're at one more time?
About a third
Page
of the way
3,
down.
about a third of the way down, the line starts, shall be issued to the licensee.
I got it. Thank you. Okay.
Change to costs.
Oh, you mean it's a typo?
It's a
Oh,
typo.
got you. Costs, not cots, okay. Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Councilmember Zinner?
Thank you. I just have two minor ones. On comments from citizens on agenda items, it says none yet. There are comments by Mr. Heiner and Mr. Smith regarding the candlelight tour, so I just wanted to, so we just need to cross out none after comments from citizens on agenda items. It's on the first page, under approval of the minutes.
Are you looking at the end of the council meeting?
No, I'm looking at the
First page.
beginning of the first page of the council meeting. It says comments from
Oh,
citizens.
okay, I see what you're saying. It says none, but yet, okay, I
But yet
got
we
you.
have some. And then the other thing
Okay.
I just want to clarify for everyone is on comments that I had made. I've read this sentence several times, and I'm not sure if it conveys the true meaning. And I've also trying to speak up so I could be clearer with the next set of minutes. It says the Maryland Historic Trust is offering $300,000 in grant money. All true. So the Havre de Grace Historic Foundation has submitted a grant application with the hope to get $50,000 to $60,000, but it should say including in-kind, and that word is left out. Including in-kind donations along with $40,000 in grant funds. So the total that we're requesting is $40,000 from the Maryland Historic Trust, but the way it's worded, it almost sounded to me when I read this that the Historic Trust is committing to $50,000 to $60,000 in-kind donations, which it is not the case.
Okay,
So do you want me to repeat that?
yes, please.
Okay. So the Historic Trust is offering $300,000 in grant money, and that's across the state. So the Havre de Grace Historic Foundation has submitted a grant application with the hope to get $50,000 to $60,000, including in-kind donations along with $40,000 in grant funds.
So you want the word including after 60,000?
Correct.
Okay. Council, any objections?
No objection.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Any other edits, modifications, clarifications? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. City Council minutes of September 8th, 2020, carry 6-0 in the affirmative. We're going to go to item number 6 on this evening's agenda, comments from citizen items. This is the part of this meeting's agenda that if there's something on this evening's agenda that you wish to comment on, now is the time to speak. If you're here this evening because you have other city business to talk about that's not on the agenda, then we have a place at the end of the meeting for general citizen comments of other city business. So does anybody here wish to speak on city business that's on the agenda? Okay. Okay, we will move on to item number 7, appointments. This evening, we have one appointment, which is actually a reappointment, to the Board of Appeals, Council President Glenn.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I make a motion for the reappointment of Sam Cubberly to the Board of Appeals.
Second.
Council have a motion by Council President, second by Councilman Ringsager for the reappointment of Mr. Sam Cubberly to the Board of Appeals. Questions or comments on the reappointment? Council President.
I just want to say, Sam's planning insight that he brings to the Board of Appeals has been invaluable, and not only does he serve on the Board of Appeals, he's a very invaluable member of Susquehanna Hose Company as our safety officer. So I hope I have council's full support in this reappointment.
Thank you, Council President. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. The reappointment of Mr. Sam Cubberly to the Board of Appeals carries 6-0 in the affirmative. Item 8, recognitions. This evening we have no recognitions. Item number 9, proclamations. We have one. This month is Code Enforcement Compliance Month, believe it or not. And tonight we're going to recognize our Code Enforcement Department, who is always very busy in the city of Havre de Grace, and we wish to give them a little bit of airtime just to say hi to everybody in the city of Havre de Grace. And so, Council President, want to join me in the well as we greet our Director of Planning, Mr. Shane Grimm, and Mr. Earl Swaggart, who's with the Code Enforcement Department.
All right, yeah.
First of all, I want to thank you all thank you, Shane, for being here, and Earl, thanks for being here this evening. I want to start off by saying I know many of you probably let it slip from your minds that it was Code Enforcement Month, but we're here to remind you that it is. And one of the reasons why we bring it up is one of the busiest departments in Havre de Grace is Code Enforcement. I will have to say a good part of my emails are citizens reaching out to me with questions about property maintenance or something they might observe in town that might not be right, or, in a lot of cases, it's maybe a neighbor has a big pile of trash in her backyard and there's rats or rodents or something like that. There's a variety of reasons why code enforcement is needed in the city of Havre de Grace, and it's not always, probably the most fun, knocking on people's doors telling them they got to fix something, but wherever there's wherever there's a problem, there's also a fix to it. And if you want the city to be orderly and proper and to look attractive and to, have everybody get along and have your homes have good resale value, property maintenance and other things like that are very important. Also, because we are a department of one, maybe two sometimes, code enforcement, this is important for everybody to hear me. I tell this people all the time. Code enforcement is a complaint-driven department. People all the time say to me, I can't believe your guys don't see that over there. Like, well, maybe they do, maybe they don't, but we have so many people calling in with maintenance issues that, we're busy 8 hours a day, sometimes, 10 hours a day, longer than that. So if you think something's not right in the city of Havre de Grace or something needs to be fixed, always call City Hall. We always get right out to it right away. And that's a promise. We're always really good at getting on top of things if you reach out to us. So the Code Enforcement Department is so busy that we really did want to take time. It really is a thing, Code Enforcement Compliance Month. We wanted to take the time to thank the tireless and thankless efforts of our Code Enforcement Department, which falls under the Department of Planning, which is Mr. Grimm's department, and thank them, because if you've ever driven by something, maybe a you know, a house that has 10-foot grass, or maybe an old abandoned home that hasn't been lived in a couple years with a hole in the roof, or a pile of pallets and junk that have rats coming out of it, and the next day it's gone, you can probably thank a code enforcement official. So that's how we try our best to keep our city looking orderly. So I'm going to hand you guys the mic real quick. Before I do it, I'm going to hand it to CP.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Everyone knows that code enforcement is so critical to maintain the landscape and the appeal of the city that we all are so proud to call our home. And like the mayor said, it's not an easy job. It's because it's complaint driven. And I just want to take this opportunity to personally thank you for what you do day in and day out for the residents of Havre de Grace. I'm going to start off with the director, and Earl, you're going to be the
Roast 'em.
Look, let's be honest here. If everybody kept their property up, Earl wouldn't have a job. So it's kind of a catch-22 there. But no, I just want to say that this is really important to me to recognize Earl. And I should say, really, it's recognizing the entire Department of Planning, because each one of us, in some small way, deals with some type of enforcement, whether it be Diane, Claire with critical areas, or Marissa assisting Earl and myself with code enforcement. But Earl is really on the front lines. I like to call Earl my CEO, the Chief or Code Enforcement Officer. So one of these days we're going to get him a shirt that says CEO. But I truly believe that it is one of the most difficult jobs in the city, because you're ultimately mostly not dealing with citizens that are very happy at the time. And Earl just has a way about him that he's able to talk to those people, diffuse situations, and Earl really has a good presence of mind when he maybe needs to call on me to assist him. We have a very, very good working relationship and a good friendship as well, and I should say that Earl and I try to get out at least once a week and get ourselves some iced tea and do a ride around town and see what's going on. But there's no one better than Earl to be in that position. And I'm really, truly happy to have him. He keeps threatening me with retirement, but I told him I'll be the one to determine when he retires. So, it would be a big loss when the city loses Earl, but does an excellent job. So.
Thank you. Earl? All right, so we saved you for last, because your job is not an easy one. Every time you knock on the door, usually you got to start off by telling somebody what they're doing wrong, and they probably get a lot of looks on your face, because as soon as you tell them what you're doing wrong, the look on your face is, who are at me at, so tell us like, what are like the top two most common code enforcement violations in the city?
First would be grass. Most of the time it's grass, bushes, trees. The second one's trash. Most often. And most of them don't come to the door. They look through the window at me and put their ticket on the door. They'll look at me through the window and let me put it on the door, even though I'm not. Drive away, come back around, the ticket's gone, so.
All good, right?
It's all good.
Well, some people can actually be in violation of a city code and maybe not even know it. For example, maybe someone has like a bush that is outgrown over a sidewalk. They probably didn't realize it, but before you know, that's actually a code violation. That a sidewalk has to be clear of travel, and sometimes it's just a friendly reminder, hey, that, you don't know, you probably didn't realize it, but your tree growing over stuff like that, right?
That is correct. Yep. Yep. I think the biggest thing is with COVID and everything, there's a lot of houses, and I'm sure everybody drives around, we all live in Havre de Grace, that there's houses that need to be painted, houses that need to be cleaned up, there's houses that are empty. It's really a pick and choose, and I hate to say that because you really have to figure out what's the most important ones and then work your way back. I know a lot of people don't have money now, so us not having money to give people, help them out, we have to do what we can for people. How to pick and choose how we go about doing code enforcement. So I know there's a lot of houses that are abandoned that need to be either kept up or painted or whatever, but I think we do a decent job and keep up with that.
In some cases, then abandonment, sometimes you got to do it with the court system, right?
That is correct. We have
Takes time too.
we have two on Girard that is they have 6, 7 brothers and sisters, and they're fighting between them what to do with it, whether they want to keep it or sell it. So
Yeah, I get that a lot. People ask me, well, how come this isn't fixed there, this isn't fixed? In some cases, maybe there's not a direct person that can do it, it's in the court, and so, like I say, your department's busy.
it is always busy, yes.
Because code enforcement in the city of Havre is
Nope.
around forever. I mean, but no, appreciate what you do. Live in a civilized city and not to be a health hazard.
Correct.
Or, a hazard to walking on sidewalks and things like that. So, or trip hazards and rodent hazards. So, it's what your department does is very important.
Yeah.
And, got any good stories for us?
Pictures are 1,000 words, yeah. Pictures are worth 1,000 words.
Okay, all right, got it.
But I'd like to thank everybody for their support in doing this job. I've been doing it for 10 years now. I've been with the city almost 25 years, so I do appreciate all the support everybody gives me. I don't know everybody personally, but I've met you all, so I do appreciate everything that you guys do for me.
Thank you for your comments, appreciate it. I'd like to read this in the record real quick. City of Havre Grace Proclamation, Code Enforcement. Whereas code enforcement officers provide for safety and welfare of citizens throughout the United States through the enforcement of local codes or ordinances, facing various issues of building, zoning, housing, animal control, environmental health, and life safety. And whereas code enforcement officers have a challenging, demanding role and often do not receive recognition for the job that they do in improving living and working conditions for residents and businesses of local communities. And whereas the role of many code enforcement officers has expanded in recent years with the increased number of foreclosed and abandoned homes in communities impacted economically. And whereas code enforcement officers are dedicated and high qualified professionals who share the goals of preventing neighborhood deterioration, enhancing and ensuring safety, and preserving property values through knowledge and application of housing, zoning, and nuisance codes and ordinances. And whereas code enforcement officers have a highly visible role in the communities they serve and regularly interact with a variety of state and local officials, first responders, legislative boards, commissions, agencies, and bodies. Whereas code enforcement officers are called upon to provide quality customer service and excellence to the residents and businesses of the communities in which they serve. Whereas the City of Havre de Grace wants to recognize and honor city's code enforcement officers and bring awareness to the importance of the code enforcement and their role. Now, therefore, I, William T. Martin, proclaim the month of October 2020 as Code Enforcement Compliance Month. The Mayor and City Council recognize and express their appreciation for dedication and service by our code enforcement officers. Earl, my hand is to you. All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thanks, gentlemen.
Be careful. Shake said be careful.
Don't want the code enforcement officer to say anything about it.
Okay. That takes us to item number 10 on this evening's agenda, which is going to be a presentation on a living shoreline. And I'd like to invite forward Ms. Stephanie Noy of the Department of Public Works, and she has a slideshow presentation. Good evening.
Well, good evening, Mayor Martin, council members. I'm pleased to be here.
We're pleased to have you here. Thank you.
I will, I'll stand on my toes. No, can you hear me? That's all that's important. So it's been a little while since we talked about living shorelines. It's one of my favorite subjects, other than stormwater runoff. So this is my favorite part, and I hope during this brief interlude with the pandemic that you've had time to connect a little bit more with the outdoors and get close to nature and appreciate a little bit more in the beauty of it. So what you're looking at, slide 1, is our small living shoreline down at Concord Point. And what you'll notice about this one, even though it's small, it has all of the necessary elements to treat the stormwater runoff and to infiltrate that runoff before it reaches the river. Now, each, depending on the area, the tides, the currents, the type of water body the living shoreline's next to, what it may look like. Another element is native plants. So if you're talking about a saltwater body, you're going to have saltwater grasses. The thing I'd like to draw your attention to in this slide, this is just another dynamic living shoreline. And if you can notice where the grasses part, there's cobbles lining the walkway. And so down in, there's a walkway behind the grasses also. So down at our living shoreline, that's what we will be doing when we replant the native plants that go there. It's a little more than grasses, a little more interesting native plants in our area. But we'll line that walkway with cobbles so that people know exactly, and there's no question where they can step and where they should stay away from. So the elements of a living shoreline are many. Basically, you have the embayment of the water body. At the points, you have the breakwaters, and they're all, it's science. They're all calculations that are done depending, excuse me, on the currents and the the tides and the flow of the water body. But the breakwaters are there to have the waves break on them, just like they're named, and then they kind of gentle back into the embayment, and they're not going to slam the shore. Only when the conditions are right, the perfect storm, the perfect wind, the perfect tide, the perfect everything, will you see water overtop the sand and the plants that are in the back of the embayment. So the native plants, the other natural elements of a living shoreline, the down trees, they all work together to create habitat for the wildlife, and also the plants that are in the water are going to be good for any of the organisms in the bay or in the river. Okay, so why do we pick a living shoreline? Well, because it treats a vast area. The nature-based shorelines recreate the natural relationship between the land and the water. So unlike a seawall, you will create the habitats and the ecosystems that are needed for a healthy environment so that the grasses that are in the bay are more healthy and higher quality, so that we protect the infrastructure and the buildings behind the living shoreline, protect them from erosion, we protect them from floodwaters, from sea level rise, and all the other climate conditions. I think this is like pushing on my neck, excuse me. Anyway, they do act as a natural defense to storm surges that come up, and they're lower maintenance, actually. So when you figure in the cost of the materials, they're probably, you could not treat that vast amount of acreage of stormwater runoff for a lesser amount, no matter what you put in there. And the strongest day of a revetment or a bulkhead is the day it's built. Living shoreline's a little bit different, and that's so the term living shoreline, it grows and changes a little bit as it wants to, as it needs to handle the incoming storm surge or the anything like that, so that it can handle everything it's given. And it responds to that, and that's the relationship between the land and the water. So the next slide is just a concept plan of our Water Street area. And that area would be so beneficial for the city to have as a living shoreline. One, the city owns so much property in shoreline in the city. And since we are a city, it's very urban. The runoff just flows right now straight out into the river. The storm drain system shoots it out there without any treatment whatsoever. So part of the living shoreline is not only the sand and the plants and the cobbles and the rocks and the downfalls. It's also what's happening inland farther. It's the step pool systems, the weirs, taking the outfalls offline ahead of the shore and just infiltrating that through a system of the weirs with the sand and the soils and the plants. The pollutants are taken out, much of them, before it even reaches the water. If it does reach the river, it may just all be infiltrated and become groundwater. And also, there's a thermal cooling as it travels through these layers of soil and through the natural elements that make up the living shoreline and behind. So we're looking at the Water Street lots, and we're going to, this is once again a concept plan, and we would like to go ahead and start that at the MTBR property, continue it through our Water Street lots that we own. And also on the Water Street, we'd like to have a boat ramp built, parking for the trailers, some soft launches for kayaks, and really make that usable and get people excited about coming to the northern end of the city. So we're going to call that the Living Shoreline North. And then we'll remove some pervious pavement there at Gene Roberts Park, and we'll go ahead and put in a step pool system of weirs and pools for the stormwater to run through. Now, the drain will continue around by the American Legion property, of course, past David Craig Park, American Legion property. We have Mr. Wood's property, and then our water treatment plant, and we'll end up at the end at the Tidewater Grill. And we have everybody on board. The property owners are pleased and excited about this project. So,
Just a quick question. Going back to that picture, the before, how is this going to be impacted by the new bridge?
we have a concept plan from the bridge to be built. And actually, we have 2 engineers working now, 2 companies working together, one for the living shoreline and one for the boat ramp and parking. And they are making a match with their plan set. And what we're doing now is just marking where, from the concept plan of the new track, where that would fall in the plan.
Okay. Are they aware of our plans? Are they?
We've sent them letters.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so winding everything up, what's this going to mean to the city? Additional open space, especially in the north end of the city, and access to the water, the river and the bay, And once again, people will be able to walk on this living shoreline. They can fish from it as long as it's public open space. They're more than welcome. They'd be able to launch a kayak from anywhere on the living shoreline that's public space. It will protect the infrastructure, the buildings, and the infrastructure behind the living shoreline from floodwaters. It will reduce that. And once again, by taking the outfalls offline and directing them through the soils and sand and native plants, we'll get much of the pollutants again will be removed. And because it's such a large urban area, it's about, we'd be treating, with this living shoreline north, we'd be treating about 43 acres of land, much of that impervious because it's city acreage, and that's the drainage area that would come through that system. So we actually may, with that system, will make a giant leap, and we may make our MS4 permit requirements for impervious surface treated by doing this one project. Will take us over the limit for our 5-year goals. So we'll be meeting the EPA goals, MDE goals, and our requirements for that, which is just phenomenal, because I don't think there's any county or municipality that can say that they've met that quota. It's pretty large. So with that, I'd like to thank you again for your time and attention, and we'll always be available for questions, and we'll be available for updates.
Thank you. Does any council members have a question? Councilmember Robertson.
Beach CP.
It's okay.
Well, first of all, you know I'm a big fan of this project. I think it's great for all the parties involved. I think it's great for the city and the citizens. And the best part is it's largely grant funded. I mean, almost entirely, right?
Correct.
Yeah, so it's beautiful. Great job, Stephanie, as usual. Would you mind just going back a slide for the map?
The concept plan.
The concept plan.
There you go.
It's got it. For the new ramp, that's not going to be at Gene Roberts any longer, right?
Correct. We're using the Gene Roberts area as it is now to put in the step pool system, and we'll be from the boat ramp. We don't have a pointer, do we? Well, you can see right next to the track, to the left.
Mm-hmm.
Will it work on the screen?
That worked.
Won't work on
Yeah, I
that.
won't pick it up.
Okay, that's all right. You can see the pools, the step pools and the weirs right next to the tracks.
Right.
And then next to that would be the parking lot. Okay. And then you see the boat ramp is the small, it's kind of, there is a ramp
Dots.
that's there now.
Okay.
It's blue, it's the break in the living shoreline symbols. Okay, it's a dual lane boat ramp, and it'll have a floating pier. And then in that parking lot, we'll have a French drain, a gravel, underground gravel system of stormwater conveyance to the step pools that are in Gene Roberts Park, so that runoff will head in there and be treated. And then the living shoreline itself, of course, is going to treat the other runoff that flows down to there. And then we're going to have, of course, parking for trailers and parking for cars, and soft launches. We'll have an ADA accessible soft launch drop-off area for that. And does that help answer?
Yeah, I guess what I'm What I'm trying to understand is how much of the city's owned Water Street property is going to be taken up now by what's essentially just a boat launch. So like, I love the idea of the living shoreline. I don't know that I love the idea of that $2.4 million buy that the city just made, that the taxpayers just made, going into a parking lot and a boat launch. I just don't think that that makes a lot of sense economically. So I'm just trying to understand how much of the city's own Water Street property is going to be parking lot and I guess just being done, given to the boat ramp. There we go.
Given to the boat ramp.
Yeah,
As
there
you
was more
can,
for that.
well, you can sort of see where it's not just Gene Roberts Park, but the living shoreline, those step pools and weirs come way over into the Water Street lots.
Yep.
First off, it's going to be more like a park setting. We're going to continue the signature sidewalk, so that'll connect it to downtown also, and connect it to the water trails that are there. It'll lead people, of course, to the north end of the city, but we can add amenities later on. There's going to be enough space to, whatever, I don't know, bathrooms. We also have the lot across the street, across Water Street, that we're not using as, of course, living shoreline. So we have that to amend. But it's going to be a park-like setting in that plants and flora and fauna and walking trails, trails that lead to the water trails. Does that make sense? You also have to remember, too, about the historical use of that property being an old industrial site. So when we were down next to especially down next to the water, the part that is bulkheaded now, first off, you're not going to, the bulkhead is many different materials and it's wearing out. It's decaying. You'll never get grant money from anywhere to replace that bulkhead. So this is a way to go around replacing the bulkhead. We're going to make it natural and go over it, over top of the bulkhead and out channelward. So it is going to be more like the Concord Point promenade, and then have a walkway through it. It'll have places for people to, we can put amenities there like picnic tables. Excuse me. It'll be green and lush and beautiful. The plants will be beautiful, and it'll be more like a park-like setting. But MDE is not going to allow us to, we also have to go with what's fundable. Let me just suffice it to say that there's a lot of uses we can't get funded, and putting pavement over it, an old industrial site, is definitely fundable, especially when you're trying to relieve the other end of town of an overload at the yacht basin, and we don't want to turn boaters away. So it's a perfect location at the north end off of Route 40, off of 95, to get to launch your boat and then park your trailer right there.
Thank you. Do you have any more questions, Councilman Robertson? Nope. Council President.
First off, I want to thank you for your tireless efforts. This living shoreline, if we're able, through this effort, to meet the MS4 permit requirements, that's going to be a win-win for this city. Like you said earlier, I don't think any other waterfront community in the state of Maryland is going to be able to make that claim. So we'll serve as an inspiration for other waterfront communities in going there. And The other thing I think is, after seeing what's happened at Concord Point, once we get this end completed, I think it's gonna make that land that we own down there a lot more lucrative for the future and much more attractive. And it'll make it look like a true waterfront community.
Absolutely. Instead of,
I just want to thank you for your tireless efforts.
thank you. Thank you for your perception.
Councilmember Boyer.
I said it before, Stephanie, you're just amazing. You're such a great asset to our city, and I first want to say thank you so much for your vision and passion for this and your ingenuity on how to make it happen. Just to confirm, there's, as far as MDE, we have requirements to encapsulate some of the property there or not? As far as the ability for rainwater and other things to go through the property to be able to treat it beforehand, before it gets out to the bay, right?
To encapsulate?
Encapsulate the ground from contaminants that already exist?
The,
Mm-hmm.
cap it, okay. That's what the, well, that's the purpose of the parking lot. Will do the capping for us. The stormwater runoff that goes through that area now will connect those drain systems sideways, sort of, or angled into other step pool areas and other infiltration areas underground, under the pavement. They will be, and then we'll treat it before it goes out into the river.
So again, it's us being more responsible with the land and treating the water before it gets out into the river and going downstream to the rest of the state.
Correct.
Okay. And also, will there be, you have to pay for the parking there, right? There's going to be a launch fee there, most likely?
We haven't even gotten to that point yet.
Okay,
Probably be a
If-
$10 launch fee.
yeah.
If there is a launch fee, our funders, DNR has some things to say about that too.
Okay,
Normally, I think if we charge a fee, and we've used boating access grant funds to build the boat ramp, then it has to be the same across the board for everyone. Like if I launch, I pay the same as when you launch. I pay the same as when anybody else launches.
so a kayaker
Whether
versus
you're-
a motorboater,
Right.
Roger, okay, good. Thank you.
Councilmember Martin.
Kayaks, we shouldn't have to launch on the.
Stephanie, thank you very much.
Boat ramp's different, you won't have to pay.
I want to thank you for everything you're doing because you are following the guidance given to you by the administration, the efforts you put in to make us compliant with the MS4. You've put in a lot of hard work, and it's, again, you're following the mandates given to you by the administration. So what you're doing here, making us one out of 157 municipalities in the state of Maryland that will meet and exceed the requirements set forth for these communities and municipalities is outstanding. And again, I want to thank you for everything you did, your time and your effort. It's greatly appreciated from this side of the dais.
Thank you so much. And it, like Casey said, it is my passion. And I am very passionate about this city and the potential of this city. I know what it can be. This is going to, when this project gets in the ground and moving and people start enjoying it, it's going to be national news. I just know it. We're going to have a lot of recognition.
Councilmember Ringsager.
I want to say thank you for making the boat launch so deep and set into the land, because the water there can get rather swift, and smaller craft would be difficult to launch there. But the one thing I noted that you said, it's going to be a floating dock. And at Gene Roberts, that's the complaint I hear about all the time, and why it's not used is, depending upon the tide, sometimes it can be impossible to use that dock because it's a fixed dock. And if you have a smaller vessel and the tide's out, you can have a heck of a time getting out of your boat. So
Right.
I'm very happy that it's a floating dock and that it's set back a little bit further.
Yes, it will be set back in and protected. And the purpose of it really is when people put their boats in the water, they could be able to tie up to this and let somebody else, put their boat in the water while they're parking. So
Be two sides or like
it's a
two
dual lane.
boats can launch at the same time?
Yes.
Good.
It will be a dual lane boat ramp, and it's kind of more of a floating pier, which I guess is the same thing as a floating dock, but it's to tie up there while you're retrieving your vehicle with the trailer or you're launching.
Thank you.
I
Councilmember
love
Zinner?
my job.
Councilmember Zinner.
Thank you very much. Stephanie, I just want to thank you again for being here, and I know you love your job, and I know how passionate you are about it, and I always learn something each time you come before us and give us your perspective and what's happening. My question really is, I know there's been a lot of coordination that had to be done in terms of the engineering companies and also to get the permission from the existing property owners that are going to front this shoreline. So do you have any estimates now on any kind of a timeline based on the phase 1 or phase 2, phase 3? How do you think that may roll forward now that you've got the engineers, you've got the design, and you've got the permissions to bring the shoreline down from the north side all the way to the Tidewater Grill area?
We do. Now we're waiting for the permission, so to speak, from the regulators. So we're in the permitting phase currently with MDE and the Army Corps for working in the waters, and we'll just need to, that's quite a process, especially for a project to this extent. So we've been through quite a few meetings and on-site visits and discussions together, separately, so we're still working through that permitting stage and getting the permits. Now, we don't have awards in my hand yet for the grant money, but everyone seems to be on board. But it's one of those things now, I'm going for different pots of grant money. The boat ramp is one part, and the associated pier and bulkhead is one part, one grant. And then another grant for the parking, another grant for the sidewalks and the soft launches, another grant for the living shoreline itself. So I have to coordinate, and they're all kind of waiting for everything to go through. So I think, and they've been speaking with one another too. So I think when it happens, it's all going to fall together at one time, which would be, it's a day of celebration.
Yeah, will be. All right. Well, thank you, and I'm sure we're all just very anxious to see this start and then get the opportunity to enjoy it. Thanks so much for all you do.
Thank you. It's going to be gorgeous.
Stephanie, thank you so much for your presentation and for answering the questions of the council.
Thank you.
Like I said, this is a project I'm extremely excited about. I've said before that this project will change the shoreline of Havre de Grace forever.
Absolutely.
And it'll be, and you're right, it will be, I mean, if not national news, it'll definitely be probably one of the greatest examples on the East Coast of how a city can revert its industrial shoreline back into a natural state of repose, and the way it's going to attract wildlife, the way it's going to stabilize our shore against storm, erosions, and most importantly, the runoff from the streets. That at the moment, a good number of our runoff goes completely unfiltered right into the bay. I mean, we have worked on some areas of it, but this is going to be huge. And the key word I want every citizen watching at home to know this is that the intent and design of this is for public access.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so it's not going to be something beautiful that we tell everybody, stay away, don't go near there. It's going to be great. Just go ahead and walk out on it, take your dog out there, enjoy the shoreline.
Go fishing.
Exactly. So this is going to be great. And so I thank you again for your time, and we look forward to getting it done.
Thank you all. Thank you all for your support.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Good job.
Okay, council, we're going to go to item 11. Resolutions. This evening, we have one resolution, annexation charter resolution 289 concerning 1748 Pulaski Highway. Second reading. The public hearing was held on September 8th, so now we move into the second reading. Do I have a motion to introduce this charter resolution on second reading?
Mr. Mayor, so moved.
All right, Councilmember Ringstocker,
Second.
seconded by Councilmember Boyer. Questions or comments on the introduction? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion introduced, Charter Resolution 289. Carry 6-0 in the affirmative. I will read the header into the record. A resolution by the Mayor and City Council of Havre de Grace, Maryland, adopted pursuant to the authority of the Maryland Constitution, Article 11E, and the provisions of the Annotated Code of Maryland, Local Government Article Subtitle 3, Amendment or Repeal of the Charter, and Subtitle 4, Annexation, authorizing the legislative body of a municipal or of a municipality to annex property extending to the boundaries of the municipality by resolution to amend the city charter, specifically Appendix A of the Havre de Grace Charter by adding subsection A.35, the second 2020 addition to the city boundaries, along with a legal description of the acres of land which will enlarge the boundaries of the city of Havre de Grace to include the land of 1748 Pulaski Highway, consisting of 2 parcels for a total of 1.57 acres, more or less. Council, to have a motion to adopt Charter Resolution 289 on second reading.
So moved.
Second.
Motion to adopt by Councilmember Ringstocker, seconded by Councilmember Boyer. Question or comments?
Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Ringstocker.
Mr. Mayor, Council, this is a resolution to annex 2 parcels for a total of 1.57 acres. It will have no impact on the schools, with only minimal impact on police, water, and sewer. It is on the south side of Pulaski Highway.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Ringstocker, for the comments. Any other questions or comments? Council, I'm going to call the roll call on this one. Councilmember Ringstocker,
Yes.
Councilmember Robertson,
Yes.
Councilmember Boyer,
Yes.
Councilmember Zinner,
Yes.
Councilmember Martin,
Yes.
Council President.
Yes.
By roll call vote of 6-0 in the affirmative, annexation charter resolution 289 concerning 1748 Pulaski Highway is adopted on second reading. Thank you very much, council. Okay, item number 12, ordinances. We're going to go into, we have one ordinance this evening concerning deed of dedication for Bully Rock Parkway. First reading, Council President.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I make a motion to introduce for first reading the ordinance concerning the deed of dedication for Bully Rock Parkway.
Second.
Council, I have a motion by the Council President, seconded by Councilmember Martin. This is to introduce an ordinance concerning deed of dedication for Bully Rock Parkway. Questions or comments on the motion to introduce this ordinance? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion to introduce an ordinance concerning the deed of dedication for Bully Rock Parkway carries 6-0 in the affirmative. Council, this is going to be ordinance 1042, 1042. An ordinance by the Mayor and City Council of the City of Havre de Grace, Maryland, adopted pursuant to the authority of Article 11E of the Maryland Constitution, Local Government Article of the Annotated Code of Maryland, City Charter Sections 33, 34, 65, 66, and 73, concerning a deed of dedication for 2.17 acres, more or less, off of Bully Rock Parkway in the area of the Bully Rock Water Tower. Council, to have a motion to adopt this ordinance on first reading.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by the Council President, seconded by Councilmember Zinner. Questions or comment on the motion to adopt on second reading? Council President.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The respective property associated with the ordinance in question is in the area of the Bully Rock Water Tower. As it was stated, it's approximately 2.17 acres. The current owner has determined that this parcel has no value to the current ownership. and is offering this land to the citizens of Havre de Grace as is.
Thank you very much, Council President. Any other questions or comments? Okay, I'm going to call roll on ordinance 1042. Councilmember Robertson?
Yes.
Councilmember Ringsager?
Yes.
Council President Glenn?
Yes.
Councilmember Martin?
Yes.
Councilmember Zinner?
Yes.
Councilmember Boyer?
Yes.
By roll call vote is 6-0 in the affirmative. Ordinance 1042 concerning deed of dedication for Bully Rock Parkway is adopted on first reading. Council President, when would you like to have a public hearing on this ordinance?
Very next council meeting, the first meeting in October.
Okay, first meeting in October. It's the first Monday in October.
Yeah, the first Monday.
Right, what is it? What's the date? Anybody
I
have?
don't have the calendar. Fifth.
Fifth, all right, I thought so, I couldn't. Thank you. October 5th is the next council meeting. We'll have the public hearing at 7 p.m. on October 5th at the next city council meeting. Cinco de October. All right, we're going to go to, let's see, item number 12B was removed, so we're good there. Item 13, old business. This evening, we have no old business. Item 14, new business. This evening, the council has no new business. Item 15, director's reports. We're going to start with the Director of Administration, Mr. Patrick Seipold. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, council and citizens. I have two events I'd like to announce tonight for our citizens. The first is presented by the Havre de Grace Arts Collective, and they are featuring Odyssey. And Odyssey is a 10-piece band from D.C. area. They performed all over the D.C., Maryland, and Virginia area. Their nationally and regionally renowned performers include Al Williams, Tim Wynn, Prince Havre, and Nikki Reed. This is a band that plays a lot of big music from big band era all the way through Motown. They're going to be playing up at the community center under the tent on Friday, September 25th. Show time is at 7:30. The second event I'd like to make mention of is sponsored by the Havre de Grace Colored School Museum and Cultural Center. They are hosting a Day of Unity on Saturday, September 26th from 11 until 2. They're looking back and moving forward. They ask that you join them and support the minority businesses and provide voter registration and education. They'll be featuring 40 minority vendors and much, much more. This is free to the public. However, under the COVID guidelines, tickets are required, and to get in, you just bring a canned good or a school supply to enter. This will be held at the Lidos Field at Ripken Stadium, and that's located in Aberdeen. For more information, you can call 443-939-0366, or you can go to Eventbrite at adayofunity.eventbrite.com for further information. And that wraps up what I have this evening, sir.
Mr. Seipold, thank you very much for your comments. We're going to go to Mr. Shane Grimm, Director of Planning. Welcome back, Mr. Grimm.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members, citizens. I just wanted to first thank you for reappointing Sam Cubberly to the Board of Appeals. Sam has been an invaluable member of the Board of Appeals, and I really enjoy working with him. So thank you for doing that. I want to let you know, last time I spoke to you a little bit about the critical area program and our updates to the program and the mapping. And we did get word from the state today that starting October 1st, the state of Maryland will be notifying property owners that have changes to their property. So our citizens could expect to get a notification from the state. Probably will come on either in a letter or a postcard notifying them of the changes and how they can get more information on those changes. Also want to let you know that we have rescheduled a few of the parcels in Bully Rock that were scheduled to be heard by the Planning Commission last Monday. They will be heard this Monday, September 28th, in these council chambers at 6:30 p.m. Also on the agenda, we have a case that will first be heard by the Planning Commission, and then will be heard by the Board of Appeals for a variance for the BG&E substation across from Evonic. BG&E is proposing an 80-foot monopole at that location, which is only for internal BG&E communications. It's really for the reliability that they're building into their system, so that if another substation goes down, there's internal communications and relays well beyond what I understand, the technical part of it, but those relays and switches can help to restore power in other areas more quickly. So there won't be any telecom facilities on the pole, nor will it be able to hold any of those facilities or extra antennas. However, it does need a variance because public utility structures are limited to 60 feet in height, and they are proposing 80 feet. So if anybody's interested, that will be heard by the Planning Commission first, and then they will make a recommendation to the Board of Appeals, which is coming up in October. And that's all I have at this time. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Grimm. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to call forward Ms. Erica Quisenberry Sturgill, Director of Economic Development. Good evening.
Mayor, Council, we've got quite a bit going on with our businesses and with what's going on with the Havre de Grace Office of Economic Development. So right now we're doing our quarterly reporting for our 3 open grants through the Department of Housing and Community Development. Those are basically the facade program and the tenant fit-out program for our Main Street area districts. So we have 3 open grants reporting back to the state. We have to do quarterly grants on, then do the drawdowns and close those out. Currently, we have 5 drawdowns that are before the state of Maryland, as well as 6 new applicants for these funds to the City of Havre de Grace and the Office of Economic Development. Those are under review by the Department of Housing and Community Development, or DHCD, as well as the Maryland Historic Trust. At the same time, we also have the grant application round for 2021 funds, which opened last week. It closes mid-October. So the office is also writing for 4 separate grants in that particular category, mostly under the Community Legacy Program of DHCD, to replenish those funds to facade and tenant fit-out, as well as the Strategic Planning Initiative. And then our partnering organizations in the Havre de Grace Alliance and Havre de Grace Main Street with Ms. Julie Runke are working on another grant to submit on behalf of Havre de Grace for a Main Street advocated project as well. On October 22nd, which is a Thursday, the Seroptimus Club will be holding a movie night at the State Theater with a showing of A League of Their Own. Doors are open at 6. Tickets for the movie and fundraiser were open today. They went on sale. They're only selling 100 of these tickets. They've already started selling them as soon as they went live. They're $25 a person, which covers the movie, a gourmet hot dog from Bowman's Butcher Shop, popcorn, and signature cocktail. The tickets are selling pretty quickly on both Eventbrite and Facebook, and only 100 total tickets will be sold. Tonight at 5 p.m., restaurants in Maryland were allowed to increase their indoor dining capacity from 50% to 75%. Our Havre de Grace restaurants are participating in adding in a couple of tables and chairs to increase this capacity for indoors. As you know, our mayor came up with a outdoor dining, which is wonderful and has been so helpful to our restaurants. It's getting a little cold. A little outdoor dining, you might want some hot cocoa. So it's nice that we're able to increase the number of people who can go in and dine. And lastly, September 20th through September 26th is National Small Business Week. A virtual conference is going to begin on September 22nd at sba.gov/NSBW. This features virtual networking to help entrepreneurs retool, pivot, and come back stronger, as well as options for things such as insurance and going into programs of cross-promoting businesses to try and recover from everything from the shutdown. So there's quite a bit that's going on. A lot of it has to do with grants that have just opened up and the reports that have to go with them. I'm also currently assisting Rebecca Jessup with the Havre Grace Arts Alliance on their final report. They do an annual report every year for their Arts and Entertainment District. So the Office of Economic Development provides all the information for new businesses, which businesses are arts related, et cetera. So we're working with her on all of those grant reports as well. Any questions from anyone?
Any questions, council? Thank you so much. We appreciate the update.
Yes, sir.
Have a great evening. I'd like to call forward Mr. George DeHorty, the Director of Finance. Good evening, Mr. DeHorty.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council, citizens. The financial condition of the cities as of today, this morning. The general fund is sitting at a little over $8.5 million, which is running about $980,000 ahead of budget. About just under 950 of it can be attributed to the very much restricted spending we did last year as COVID broke out, and so we started the year in much better shape than we thought we would. Salaries and benefits are running at just under $250,000 below budget. It's kind of a combination of lower than expected health care claims. We've been very deliberate in filling our vacancies, and the reduced overtime, as much of you know, during the COVID, not nearly the events that we normally have, and not the benefit the way we want to get these benefits, but it is a benefit nevertheless that we get from that. The legal fees are, as I reported last time, are running almost $195,000 over budget, but just about virtually all of that can be attributed to the bond issuance that we did and that I reported on last council meeting, and I expect that it won't fluctuate much from that for the rest of the year. Right, Councilwoman? I mean, right. Real property taxes are running about $135,000 over our budget estimates from the constant yield, and we've just basically been experiencing better sales for new and existing properties. It's resulting in that unexpected windfall in this time. And on the downside, the highway user fees, the state highways I reported last time, we're going to be just over $95,000 below what we originally budgeted on their estimate, but that will also fluctuate. Put you add all that up and it comes to about $980,000 ahead of budget. The water and sewer fund, and I am not making a misstatement here, we have a fund balance as of this morning of 120, not a fund deficit. So it's really good news. It's a $1.57 million increase for the year to date. Now, I do caution you, come February, when that $2 million debt service payment for the wastewater plant comes around, we got a lot more growing to do to feel comfortable. But all systems are looking good. Our operating profit is about 1.27. We've taken in $560,000 worth of capital fees and connections, and we've spent $260,000 in capital projects and debt services to make that $1.57 million increase. The Marina Fund, the balance is just under $800,000. It's down about $25,000 year to date, and most of that can be fuel sales. And as you know, during the COVID, boating was not nearly as active as we'd hoped it would be. But it's still a very strong, healthy fund, and things are running very well for the city. And that's my report for this evening. Any questions that I can?
Mr. DeHorty, thank you very much for the detailed report on all of our funds. Any questions for Mr. DeHorty? Yeah, appreciate it. Things looking good. Thank you very much. Thank you. I'd like to call forward Mr. Tim Woody, Director of Public Works. Good evening, Mr. Woody.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Just have a few things for this evening. First, I'd like to report that the water plans for the plans to connect, for the water connection, the 12-inch line run down Route 40 to connect Havre, Grace, and Aberdeen as part of the water deal. Those plans are at 90% complete. I reviewed those and signed off on to move forward on September 15th. And September 28th, we'll begin the permitting process to permit the water line and begin the phase towards construction. The second is, we are continuing as far as all the capital projects identified for this year. We've assigned engineering, as I said, last council meeting, and we're moving forward, continuing to move forward with the design and ultimately moving forward with the construction. With that, I can answer any questions.
Council, any questions for Mr. Woody?
Good.
Mr.
Good
Woody?
news on the water line.
Oh, yes,
Yeah,
very
that's
good
good
news, very good news. We're moving ahead. Aberdeen is too. I did contact them this morning, and they are also moving ahead with their design. So it's a go project. So we're good. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Mr. Woody. Appreciate your time. I'd like to call forward the Chief of Police. Good evening, Chief.
Mayor and council members. I'd just like to start out by saying, if anybody happens to have any information, last night we experienced some malicious destruction of property in the 100 block of South Freedom and also in the 100 block of Market Street. We had a couple of vehicles that their tires were punctured. So I'm asking anybody who might have any information at all about that case or those incidents to call the police department at 410-939-2121. And just let the dispatcher know if you do have information that you want to speak to an officer or have an officer contact you about that incident. The other thing I'd like to do is just let everybody know, since April, we were in the midst of COVID. We did not have a drug take-back day like we normally do in the spring, but we are having one on Saturday, October the 24th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. It's at our location, also the parking lot at the county office building located at 220 South Main Street in Bel Air. Also the the Bel Air Police Department. It's at the Bel Air Police Department, which is at 39 North Hickory Avenue in Bel Air. And then, of course, the Wegmans is also doing it this year as well, or this time of the year, at 21 Wegman Boulevard in Abingdon. So if anybody, again, clean out those medicine cabinets, the cabinets that you have in the kitchen or wherever you happen to have your pharmaceuticals. If you're not using it, let's get rid of it. Don't keep it hanging around your house, and also do not throw it down the commodes or the sinks or anything like that. Finally, I also want to congratulate Earl Swaggart. I know we just think of him simply as code enforcement, but for us in the police department, we really do appreciate everything he does to help us. Because keeping everything organized and clean and fresh and, and free of any rodents or anything like that, that actually goes miles to keeping crime down. It really, really does. And most people don't really think about that, but it does. It truly, truly does. So I do want to congratulate Earl. We work closely with him. He's a good guy, and he does a really good job. And I know he takes a lot of grief from people at times. So congratulations to him and also Mr. Graham. And that would be my report, sir.
Thank you very much.
Not a problem.
Good report. Council President.
One thing, Chief,
Chief.
I want to say is, if you have drugs, you don't have to wait till that special day because we have a drop box at the police department that you can drop it off anytime. So
That's correct, and I'm very fortunate because people do. We're continually emptying it out, but you are absolutely correct. And I keep forgetting to say that you don't have to wait for a drug take-back day at all. You can do it every day, 24/7.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
All right, thanks again, Chief.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, we're going to move on to item number 16, business from the mayor. I have a few announcements to make. The first thing I want to talk about is briefly go over some COVID update numbers. If I can have a slide up there, please. Just to run through the numbers real quick. Let's start with some Hartford County numbers real quick. Back in April 30th, for the first month and a half of the COVID pandemic, Hartford County had about 414 total cases. And it doubled to the end of May to 882. The end of June, Hartford County had 1,116. The end of July, 1,750. It went from 1,750 the end of July to 2,475 cases at the end of August. And as we sit here today on September 21st, Hartford County has had a total of 2,937, just a hair under 3,000 COVID cases. Now, the reason I bring that up, that's a significant number. Now, let's talk about 21078 COVID cases, which is Havre and Grace. We picked up 36 new cases in July. We picked up 51 new cases in August in Havre Grace. So far, 3 weeks into September, we're at 35 new cases. I sat here less than 2 weeks ago on a Tuesday night and said we were up to 144 cases. And now at the next council meeting, we have 172 cases in Havre Grace. So we picked up almost 30 more cases. Now, again, 172, I mean, that's not 172 active cases. That's 172 since March. I'm not trying to scare anybody. I mean, it's definitely not what I would call a pandemic in a city of 14,000 people. But what I'm saying is, you know, it's almost at an average of a couple people a day in the city of Havre Grace are testing positive. And that's what we know of. I guarantee there's a lot of people out there that their doctors probably tell them, hey, look, either way, just go home and, you know, drink a lot of orange juice or something like that. There's some people that just don't get tested. So all I'm saying is, Havre Grace, just stay vigilant, okay? Just, you know, remember the 3 important things, you know. Be careful what you touch, sanitize your hands, wear your mask, you know, if you can't avoid being close to somebody, and social distance. So again, this is, be a little careful, because almost it seems like every day we're picking up another couple cases in the city of Havre Grace. And we had a great start. I mean, the first 3 months, we only picked up about 10 a month. We had 31 cases at the end of May, and then boom, just like that, we're up to 172. So just be careful. One of the things we need to worry about is like flu season and the hysteria that could cause with people confusing flu symptoms with COVID. I mean, I can just see it now. You might just have the average kid get a flu, and then everybody stays home in quarantines because they think it could be COVID symptoms. So you add that in, and then just the cold weather, you just never know. You don't want this virus getting a comeback, because if you watched the national news and over the weekend, if you've seen the numbers over in Europe is officially in a second wave of coronavirus. They have now the same amount of numbers that they did back in April. So we don't want to become Europe. So again, Havre Grace, we're a great city with great people, and we're going to stop this virus in our city. So just be mindful, everybody, when you're out in public. That's all I got to say about that. Let's see. Give me 1 second here. Okay, cool. Yeah, one of the things I want to talk about, I want to switch gears for a second. Let's talk about black mold and fungi. Fungi. Is it fungi or fungi? Fungi.
Fungi.
Is it plural? It's fungi? Okay. Okay. Let's talk about, so if you live in Havre Grace, depending where you live, it happens a lot in Bully Rock, but it happens in other places too. Sometimes if you stick your finger under one of your faucets in your bathroom or something like that, you might see a little some black material come off of it. Sometimes you might not. If you do, it looks kind of gross. I lived in a townhouse in the woods of Bayview from 2003 to 2013 for 10 years. And in some of my, in my basement bathroom and my bathrooms upstairs, I used to get it a lot. It was just disgusting. It was just, you just pull it off your faucet. It's like a black residue. We also, it's very prevalent in the community of, well, I don't know if I'd say prevalent, but it's found in some homes in the Paddocks and also Bully Rock. So whenever there's black things coming out of your black stuff on your faucet, I mean, that is definitely a cause of alarm that, you know, is this going to hurt me? Is this going to make me sick? So it's come to our attention a couple of years ago that several homes in a Bully Rock community had this issue. So Department of Public Works investigated it, and it's been an ongoing endeavor to try to figure out exactly what this is. Pretty quickly, we were confident it wasn't coming from our water system, but at the same time, we didn't know what it was. So it's one thing to say, hey, not coming from us, but on the other hand, you know, everybody wants to know what this black stuff is coming out of their faucets at the same time. And all we could do was find people that kept telling us what it's not. Well, it's not this, and it's not this, and it's not that. Well, what is it? And most people would say, well, if it's not this and it's not that, it's probably not harmful to you. Well, nothing that is black and slimy coming out of your faucet is something that you don't want to hear someone tell you, don't worry about it. So we kept testing the material, and I want to read a couple things in the record because many of you watching this me talk right now, it may not affect you at all. You might not even have this problem. In fact, when I moved to a house in Grace Harbor in 2013, I never had that problem since. I mean, it was just something I had in my townhome, Woods of Bayview. But we kept investigating. Some of the things we did on our side is we installed flushing stations and increased the flushing time to increase the chlorine level in the water. We also flushed a Bully Rock tower and ran water through a filter to see if the black material was in the tank. It wasn't. Pulled the water meters out and inspected the meter screens for the presence of the black material. We didn't find any. Opened the fire hydrants and ran the water through a filter to see if the material was present in the water lines, and we didn't see any either. We tested the city's water for minerals and plasticides that could possibly create the black material in the residences. With every action, the results came up negative that the city's water supply was the cause of the presence of the black material in the fixtures of some of these homes. Now, on July of this past year, July 2020, the Department of Public Works collected 2 samples of black material from 2 different residences in the Bully Rock community. The samples were collected by Kim Montgomery, who's a superintendent of the water plant, and in accordance to state testing standards, and sent samples to EMSL Analytical Incorporated. The location that each sample was taken in the home was at the request of the homeowner. 2 tests were performed on the samples. The first test identified the sample as either fungal or bacterial in growth. The test results on both samples indicated a 95 to 99% fungal growth and a possible 1 to 5% bacterial growth. The second test performed was the identification and enumeration of a fungi. The fungi identified in report is an airborne fungi common in trees and grass and is present in the fixtures due to the low flow aerators in the fixtures, which restricts the drainage and the low water use in home. In both cases, the homes are occupied by only a few people. And again, proximity to trees, as this is identified as an airborne fungi. Again, this fungi can be cleared from fixtures by using commercial cleaning solutions, low concentration of bleach. But what's important to know, and we also have an email from MDE, from an employee at MDE who we've been working with, and his email has stated that he agrees that it's not coming from the water supply of the city of Havre de Grace. And I'll reiterate that. It's not coming from the water supply. We were looking for it everywhere we could try to find it. So the studies show that it is 99% probably a fungi that is created through airborne particles that get into your home and usually attach itself to a faucet that has an aerator on it and isn't used that often in most cases. So we are still here to help anyone who has this issue. And if you do, please call City of Havre de Grace at 939-1800 and ask for the Department of Public Works, and we will be happy to discuss this issue with you. We'd be happy to share our findings. We'll even be happy to go up and take a test sample from your faucet if you wish that to be the case. We're not here preaching that this is the end-all be-all, but this is what years of testing and research has given us up to this point. And I wanted citizens to know, if you happen to be one of the few citizens who experience this black stuff coming out of the bottom of your faucets. You can also go on to the city webpage and click on departments and look for Department of Public Works. So go to the City of Havre de Grace webpage, find the Department of Public Works, click on that, and then click on the Bully Rock Water Report. It will have supporting documentation from the testing that was done. So again, letters will be going out to some of the homeowners that we know that have the issues. I'll also be sending letters in the mail shortly to all the residences of Bully Rock. It's not just exclusively to Bully Rock. Again, I had it when I lived at the Woods of Bayview. I just took my shirt and went like this to it. Anyway, but anyway, it's more prevalent in Bully Rock, and again, it's one of those things. It's disgusting, but I can assure you, we are extremely confident that what's causing it is not coming from your drinking water. So, just wanted to get that out there. And again, we'd be happy to work with anybody. If you want to call City Hall or go to our website, we'll be happy to talk to you. All right, let's talk about something good. All right, well, let's talk about something bad first. Cancellations. There's two things canceled. Probably some of you figured this out already. The October 1st Fridays are going to be canceled, and the Oktoberfest.
No.
I'm sorry, Councilmember Ringsager. I thought you were Norwegian.
Only half.
Half Norwegian. Okay, all right.
I did make it to the American Legion Oktoberfest, so I did, satiate my need for schnitzel.
All right, excellent, excellent. Okay. Well, a couple weeks ago, I assembled my administrative team in this room, and we had a long discussion trying to figure out, what do we have left on the calendar that we can actually do. As we all know, COVID has seemed to just cancel so many things. We canceled First Fridays one at a time throughout the summer, only because we just wanted to take it 1 month at a time, with the hope that maybe, back in, June or July, we were thinking maybe in September, October, we might be able to have a First Friday. We didn't want to jump the gun and cancel it. But I got my team together, and my team is, my administrative staff, my tourism manager, marketing manager, the two police captains, police chief, and the council president was involved. And we just said, what can we do? And so given the logistics of the way First Fridays are held, we decided, since we didn't have one all year, it'd probably be in our best interest if we didn't have one at all. Given the fact that restaurants trying to stay in compliance, the police department trying to keep all the patrons walking on the streets in compliance with masks and social distancing and things like that. Also, the Oktoberfest is canceled also, given the nature of the Oktoberfest and the proximity in which people are crowded into Hutchins Park. So the city, regretfully, these are our events, and nobody wants to hold these events more than the city. But the city regretfully and reluctantly canceled these, only in the best interest of public safety, to one, stay in compliance with the governor's current orders, and secondly, to put people's health and safety first over an event. As much as we want to have an event, the bottom line is people's health and safety is much more important. But the good news is, when we sit down and look at all the things we can do, we can actually still have the Oyster Feast. We can actually stay in compliance with the governor's orders and hold the Oyster Feast, which I think will be at the 4th annual Oyster Festival, or maybe 5th. I don't know, something like that. And if you know how the Oyster Feast works, it's for nonprofits. Every $15 of every ticket goes to the nonprofit that sells it. It's the Saturday before Thanksgiving in November. It's at the community center, and the way we'll do it is we will erect several large tents outside the community center, and we will be in compliance indoors. We'll have some tables indoors, and we'll have some tables out in a tent. We will stay in compliance with the numbers, and the way the food will be served will also be in compliance with CDC guidelines, and it'll work out. The only caveat about the Oyster Festival this year is because of needing to keep people with their pod. What I mean by pod is you hang out with the people you come with. instead of selling individual tickets, we will only be selling tables of 4 and tables of 6. So if you go online and buy tickets, you need to buy a table of 4 or a table of 6. That way we keep everybody with the people they came with to stay in compliance with the CDC guidelines. Very soon, in the next week or so, we will have on our city website and on the Explore Havre de Grace page, we will have access to buy tickets for the Oyster Festival in November. And so that option will be there. So I'm letting everybody know now. So if you are one person and you want to eat oysters, find 3 friends. Okay, you got a month and a half and 2 months to find friends. So you can buy a table of 4 or a table of 6. For most people, it's not a problem. Or just 2 couples can go together and you got a table of 4. So that's the only caveat. But everything else we should be able to work it out and still stay within the rules of the CDC guidelines. And also, as usual, the ticket sales, again, benefit the nonprofit selling it. And when you go online to buy a ticket, you will have the option of choosing which nonprofit you wish to support. So we don't have the website set up yet for the ticket sales. That should be within a week or so. But please keep an eye out on the city webpage and our tourism page, Explore Havre de Grace. We'll have the information. So I told you that'd be some good news. And we're definitely having the Holly Jolly First Friday this year, the tree lighting. So that is the first Friday night in December. What the parade's going to look like, we don't know yet. It may be an all-vehicle parade. Sometimes we have, local, schools and like the Girl Scouts and stuff walk in the parade. So we're not sure yet how that's going to look, the parade yet, but we are going to have a tree lighting and things like that. So when the holidays come here, we're not going to let COVID take our holidays from us. So we're definitely going to do that. So, and one more thing I want to talk about real quick is lights have been installed today around the lighthouse at Concord Point. LED lights. These LED lights are very, very, very energy efficient, and you may not even be able to notice a difference in the color that it shines on the lighthouse. But the cool thing about these LED lights is that they can be any color you want them to be. And Council President Glenn, I haven't told you this yet, but you want to take a guess what color we lit the lighthouse up tonight for September?
Blue.
Yes, sir, we did, Council President. And tell everybody what September is.
It's in recognition of those individuals that have suffered from prostate cancer.
All right. Our own council president is a prostate cancer survivor, and I wanted to tell you that we got those lights in today. So we lit up the lighthouse tonight blue and the rockfish blue, and they'll be blue for the rest of the week. So thank you very much, Council President. And hey, you've inspired us to do that, all right? And so if you get a chance all this week, go down to Concord Point and see the beautiful color blue. And so the city of Havre de Grace will be supporting survivors of prostate cancer. And with that said, I am now finished with my comments. I'd like to go on. Councilmember Martin, good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council citizens. To continue on the bad news, Halloween parade is also canceled this year. So sorry to say you won't see us, Jason and myself and several others, dressed as Halloween characters out there for the parade. So it has been canceled and should be back next year, raring to go. It's very appropriate tonight that the opening prayer we had here at the council chambers talked about the power of prayer. And tonight I'm requesting that you consider prayers for David Craig and his family. James Cameron, one of our volunteers, the death of his wife, and also for my wife's father, who is in the hospital right now with pneumonia, respiratory issues, as he has been diagnosed earlier this year with ALS. So prayers are asked for all, and again, prayers for this country and prayers for Havre de Grace. Mr. Mayor, that's all I have tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments, Councilmember Martin. Councilmember Ringsacher.
Mr. Mayor, Council, this Thursday, 9/24 at 5:15 p.m., we will be holding a planning committee meeting to discuss the previous item from the agenda that we removed. And to second Councilman Martin's statement on the power of prayer, I ask everybody please say a prayer for my daughter. On a week from today, she's having surgery at Shriners Hospital again, this time for her knees. Going to go in and put some plates on both of her femurs, and then going to leave those on there for a while so her legs grow straighter. And then they're going to remove them and then do a surgical repair of her patellar tendon that she tore last year in softball. So it's been a long road for her, poor girl, but she's super strong. But I especially want to thank the doctors and everybody up at Shriners Hospital. It's amazing philanthropy. I've been a member for well over 20 years now, and never thought I'd have my own kids in the hospitals, but you know, they're one of the highest rated charities out there, and everything they do is 100% free of charge for the kids. They take the insurance, it's not a problem, but even with my daughter's scoliosis surgery last year, my insurance company denied it. They wanted her to have a less progressive treatment, and we went ahead with the new treatment, and I got a bill for $97,000, and Shriners paid for it. Same thing with her knees. What they're doing, they're going to be doing it's not necessarily experimental, but it's a newer treatment. And these are the things that Shriners do. They're on the absolute cutting edge of some of the treatments that, you know, for children that we provide free of cost. So everybody, if you can just say a prayer for my daughter next week, and they're actually off school that day, so she won't be missing any school. Poor girl's going to have to be sitting there on pain meds doing her school from home. But I do ask everybody to keep her in your prayers. Mr. Mayor, thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Ring-Soccer. I'm sure will. Councilmember Boyer.
Thank you, Mayor. Council President, colleagues, and citizens, both sitting here with us tonight and joining us virtually. It is with great sadness that today I read about our former county executive, the Honorable David Craig, and his diagnosis of dementia in the Baltimore Sun. I have known David personally for 25 years, dating back to when I was working in Annapolis, and he championed our groundbreaking legislation to ensure insurance companies paid for the medicine, supplies, and education of diabetics, medicine that they needed to survive. All of this with Mitch Sank, of course, standing right next to him. I've always been impressed by his commitment, his passion, and his work ethic. Over the years, I've spent a lot of time with David and Melinda. They've always treated my daughter and me as part of their extended family, and our hearts break down knowing what lies ahead for them. We all know about David's dedication to a life of public service and his relentless passion for learning. His ability to consume books is legendary. It's quite fitting that it has taken this opportunity to educate and advocate for a greater awareness of this insidious disease, that robs sound minds and a long goodbye. David Craig, there's absolutely nothing to regret. We, your students, have a lot to live up to. As time passes, your community will never forget you. And above all, we ask that God may bless you all real good. God bless. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Boyer. Councilmember Zinner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council, and citizens at home. Casey, I want to thank you so much for that tribute to the Honorable David Craig. It was beautifully worded, and I could tell it really came from the heart. And my prayers are with the family as well, because it's going to be a big change in their lives, and a lot of adjustments will need to be made, and they're going to need the faith and the support of the whole community of Havre de Grace and throughout the state, and the many friends that they have. I really don't have too much tonight to offer. The Historic Preservation Commission did meet last week as planned. We're at full membership for everything but 2 alternates, and we have 2 spaces left for that. They've actually also come together and have named their full executive members. So there's 4 roles. There's the chair, the vice chair, the secretary and the treasurer. So all 4 of those slots are now full. That's it for that. The only other thing I wanted to talk about again is the census. We are at 75.3%. We are now 34th in the state. We were 37 2 weeks ago, so we're moving up. But that's still the top 25% of the all the municipalities in the state. Havre County has now, is still 3rd in the state for their responses. And I believe they are, I forgot, I wrote it down, but I can't seem to find it here. Anyway, where they are in the, they're 8th in the nation, so they did move up from what I reported last time. The other thing I want to mention about that is that the deadline is only 7 days away. As of now, there may be some legal injunctions coming in, but I haven't seen anything updating changes to the final date of the counting being September 30th on the website. I've heard about some of it on the news, but I have not seen anything official on the website. There's also a bipartisan move to try to get more time for the Census Department to do their final work after the new year once they start to collate all of the information. But I do want to remind the citizens of Maryland that for every person who's counted, it means approximately $1,800 per year per person in benefits and services to the people, to the citizens of the residents of the state, whether it's healthcare services, education services, transportation services. So it's very important to be counted. Right now, as of now, you have 7 days. So please, if someone calls you, an enumerator calls you, please answer the phone, answer the door, whatever it takes, and provide the information. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilmember. Councilmember Robertson.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, fellow council members, gentlemen here, and ladies and gentlemen at home. Just want to give a couple shout outs. Thank everybody this past weekend that stopped by the American Legion for our annual Oktoberfest and craft show. It was good seeing some members of the council here and their families. And I just wanted to give a shout out to Bob and Candy Basoli for doing all the cooking, some really great German food, and all of the auxiliary for chipping in. And Frank Jackson and Jeremy Gaston and Josh League for helping set up and tear down and everything and get everything together. So, Mr. Mayor, that's it.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Robertson.
Oh, you know what? One more alibi. While we're on the topic of prayer, because everybody else said something about prayer, pray for those parents that are still at home with the kids, and pray for sanity and patience and understanding and all that good stuff, and pray for the teachers on the other end.
You
Well
mentioned,
said, sir.
you mentioned alibi. I thought you were talking about Freedom Lane last night.
Oh, yeah.
Council President.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Casey, I want to say what a great tribute to David and his family. The Craig family's always had a special place in my heart. I remember way back when David was running for mayor, he asked me to go door to door for him, and we would go door to door. And at one time when he was running for mayor, the morning of the election, he had Phil Powell and I go and run through the city of Havre Grace and put door hangers out on almost every door. And I was telling somebody tonight that we had a Little League game that night, and I could barely walk out on the field because my legs had given out. But I did it because of the person David Craig was, and he had a special place in my heart. And both David and Randy have been inspirational to helping me as an elected official, and my thoughts and prayers are with him. Dave, my thoughts and prayers are with you and Debbie and her dad. I know it's a huge uphill battle, but you're always in our thoughts and prayers, and anything we can do, we'll be there for you. Thoughts and prayers for Sydney. I know it's going to be a big day, but she's going to a great place. Can't ask for a better place than Shriners. And, tell her I wish her the best.
Absolutely.
And my deepest sympathies go out to the Cameron family. everybody knows that Jim's been an invaluable volunteer for the city of Havre de Grace, and his wife passed away. And I got to say, Mrs. Cameron, Casey Cameron, her grandson, and myself all had something in common. We all shared the same birthday, and that was last Friday. So I sent a note to Casey that we had to celebrate extra harder in memory of his grandmother, so we did that. Mrs. Cameron, your candle burned out long before your memory ever will, and I'll always cherish the memories. Now for some Warrior Proud moments. We continue to see the progress with the replacement school. I rode by the middle school the other day. It looks like the windows are coming out, so that means that school is probably coming down very, very soon. Jason, I can't wait for the kids to get back to school because I got to say, virtual learning is not my cup of tea. You know, I'm teaching my grandson every day, so it's been a real challenge. One last thought or takeaway given the virtual learning. The second graders at Meadowvale currently are learning about the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and the definition of freedom, which is the right of people to make their own choices. They're also learning about communities and what role they're playing. That was their question just this week. What role should you play in your community? And that's where we all need to step up. We need to serve as role models and reinforce that their role is to help others. And more importantly, we have to reinforce the importance of obeying the law. We need to show them that it doesn't take much effort to be nice, polite, and respectful of others. We need to show them that through our example, all we need to do is treat others with the way we want to be treated. We need to lead by example. And by leading by example, we can lay the foundation for our youth, tomorrow's future. Amen. Mr. Mayor, that's all I have to say.
Thank you very much for your comments, Council President. We're going to move to item number 18 this evening's agenda, comments from citizens. Any citizen in this audience wish to address the council on any other matter of city business? Okay. We're going to go to item number 19, which is adjournment. Council to have a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by the Council President, second by Councilmember Martin. Questions or comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion to adjourn, September 21st meeting, 2020, carry 6 over in affirmative. The time is now 8:57. I now declare this meeting to be adjourned. Thank you, everybody.